Hello and welcome to the Broadcast Tech Talks podcast, TV industry podcast from the Broadcast Tech team. My name's Jake Bickerton and I'm the editor of Broadcast Tech magazine. This latest episode is with Mike Cronk, Vice President of Advanced Technology for Grass Valley. Mike guides the development of Grass Valley's core technologies for both cloud and on-prem, including new Agile Media Processing Platform, otherwise known as AMPP. Makes it a little bit easier to say. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jake?
Yes, not bad at all. Thank you, Mike. I want to find out more about your products and services in the cloud at the moment, but maybe we should start off with a sort of broader question around cloud-based working in the media sector as well. And there's been a lot of companies obviously embracing cloud-based working more so than pre-pandemic. The COVID-19 sort of accelerated a lot of moves to the cloud. Across the whole of the kind of production workflow, what would you say are kind of some of the key benefits of making that transition, specifically for the media and entertainment industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a tremendous amount of benefits. If you look at the media and entertainment industry, there's pressure on what we call yield per asset. If you look at the content creation that goes on, that's increasing. But what's really exploded is all the various distribution platforms, so everybody's phone and iPad and whatnot. And so if you look at video asset, it's return on investment, if you will, for the broadcaster, that number is going down per distribution channel. There's just more outlets to do. You're creating more content, and yet your yield per asset's going down. Overall, revenue's slightly increasing, but still that presents a challenge. And so really broadcasters need two things: a way to find a way to increase revenue, create more content, get more out of the content that you have from a top line perspective. But the other real challenge is, if the yield per asset's going down, is figure out how to be more efficient in creating that content. And if you look at the way broadcast plants have been built, it's fixed facility, and they really haven't been able to tap into cloud technologies like so many other industries have done to become more efficient. You look at publishing, you look at music, just about every area of our lives has been transformed by cloud. But until about now, it's been very hard to move to the cloud for broadcasters, basically because of how much bandwidth and the technical requirements. They're really kind of a last frontier, if you will.
Yeah, and those sort of technical requirements and bandwidth that you're talking about, is it purely down to things like, working with high resolution content and lots of it is just massive and just potentially too costly to move to the cloud?
We're actually proving that it's not too costly to move some of that to the cloud. Not everything today, right? But the price, per gigabit per second or megabit per second of bandwidth is coming down. So that's becoming, you can put a lot of signals to the cloud. There's entire broadcasters that have put their archives into the cloud as an example. But beyond just the sheer bandwidth, and I guess I should mention that a lot of content right now, the distribution channel is the cloud, right? I mean, when you see something on your phone or iPad that's going through CDNs and whatnot, that's a cloud-based distribution solution. So the content's already has to be there for that. So the question is can I produce in the cloud? Are there benefits there? And with the decrease in the price of bandwidth, and then solving some technical challenges, which GVAMP does, things like how to minimize latency, how to allow one to align the various signals so that if I'm an operator, typically I'd be in a control room, but now I might be sitting in my house, I might be in a control room, but those signals are being processed maybe thousands of miles away from me. How do I push a button and get a quick experience? How do I ensure that those signals are aligned so that if I'm shooting a soccer match with multiple cameras, that those cameras are aligned and in the cloud, even with all the various internet hops? And so there's been some technology breakthroughs that we've pioneered there, and that has really enabled live cloud production to happen at the type of quality that broadcasters come to know and expect.
So we're not just looking at playout here, we're looking at actual sort of production of live production from multiple
Absolutely.
cameras and all that. Yeah, from different.
Absolutely. I mean, we just, as an example, we've done a number of shows that are 20 plus cameras, approaching 30, and that number's rising all the time, where the signals were originating in Europe. It was EA Sports FIFA game, right? They kind of mimic the World Cup qualifiers and go through a season like that. And I think it was the first the European qualifier match one was December 12th. They had over 20 signals coming from Europe. That's talent, that's various gameplays, the actual, computers that were driving the games. I think there were PS4s from Sony. They all those signals came back and they were processed in a data center in Northern Virginia, United States, on the East Coast. The TD sitting in front of a normal vision mixture. In fact, there was the Grass Valley K-frame panel. That K-frame panel is used to cut, the Super Bowl in the United States, a lot of major events. It's a high-end production tool. He had a panel in front of him, but instead of a frame in the next room in an equipment room, the signals were being processed 3,000 miles away because he was in California. And the signals were being processed on the East Coast of the United States, but the signals were originating from Europe and commentators, from all over. So that's a pretty amazing technical feat, but the production went off flawlessly as a proof point of what can be done with cloud technology.
What kind of latency would you be looking at for that in terms of, the action happening in the UK and it being broadcast? Yeah,
that's a great question. So one of our famous phrases here at Grass Valley, we're not the only ones, obviously, this is for the human race, but you can't cheat physics, right? So if you send a signal, there's the speed of light over fiber. You do have to, you don't have to, because we could do it uncompressed, but you typically encode those signals to reduce the bandwidth. And so our contribution quality feeds are either HEVC or H.264 at, say, 20 megabits per second. Between the encoding latency and the propagation latency, the actual signals are, say, a second or two behind real time. But what we're able to do is align those signals exactly. The operator sees them in a very low latency technology we call a flow monitor, so they can view that signal on their web browser and have a HD full quality monitoring video with about only 5 megabits per second. And so they're sitting there, they see the action, they can press buttons on a switcher. And when they press a button on the switcher, that's a perceptually instantaneous response. Yeah. The human response time is about, 80 to 100 milliseconds from a button push. And it's within that. So you hit it and those control signals are fast. You get that experience. And so they say, well, it's like we're in the same room cutting the show. We get our signals, we see our multi-viewer, we cut the show. And then typically the distribution outlet for that is something like, a YouTube or a Twitch or something like that. And those pipelines, and if you've ever, seen something live on either of those platforms, it's going to be 20 to 25 seconds behind. But in this case, it's a virtual event. The viewers are, essentially none the wiser, and that works out. Yeah, there are technologies to even decrease that, but obviously they're using their CDNs and getting those signals out. But from the production experience perspective, it is amazing. It really is something that to behold that this can be done, and it's exciting because it really does open the door to be able to use cloud. If you can do live production, you really can do about anything, play out, those are technically less hard. And so that means if I have a broadcast plan, I can rethink it. I can build something that has just enough resource that for my 24/7, use, whatever I need to amortize that. If I want to do CapEx, that's fine. But when I have a bigger event or when a news breaks and I need additional resource, I can literally press a button and it spins up in the cloud. My operators have interfaces they're familiar with, and they go. And that ability to match what I'm spending on my infrastructure to the actual needs that I have exactly solves that yield per asset type of problem. Now I'm not wasting my spend on equipment. I can tailor it to exactly what I need.
So with this type of solution, is this something that is readily available to anyone, or is it too expensive for a lot of type of productions, or is this genuinely accessible to most?
It's interesting. We've started just because of the technical crawl, walk, run approach that we had. We started with lower tier broadcast productions, so
right.
3 or 4 camera shows, 2 camera shows that had to be price competitive.
Yeah.
And so I think we figured out that nut. And then obviously, as our technology improves and we optimize, we're able to do bigger and bigger shows. So it is accessible. If you're a typical broadcast engineer, learning AMP, it's a very, very fast learning curve. You actually kind of pick the products. I want a multi-viewer, I want a switcher, I want graphics. You route them together like you would. Configurations much easier than on premise. And then you can build a system. It's very flexible. It allows you to build your own workflows. So it's not targeted at, say, prosumer type of applications. It is for, broadcast level organizations. That's Grass Valley's, bread and butter, and our strength. And so that's what we targeted. But within that, you can do a very small show economically and move up from there. The beauty about cloud isn't that everything goes to cloud in an instant. You look at other industries and there's a progression. There's still bricks and mortar. There's still a very important piece of that, but it does give you this additional lever that you didn't have to start optimizing your business even more than you could before.
The Agile Media Processing Platform, my understanding is, I think it launched last year as a cloud-based SaaS platform, and then it's part of this bigger concept, which is GV Media Universe. It all sounds kind of very big, and your ambitions seem really big. Can you explain to those that don't necessarily know a great deal about AMP and GV Media Universe kind of what is all that all about?
So first of all, just to comment on the first part of that question, GV AMP launched last April. So it's been exactly a year. Our first on-air event was actually in February. And so we were doing events February through April fairly constantly. But we announced in April, and so it's been over a year. And AMP really is the platform that we've built that is basically the starting point for our vision. And our vision we call GV Media Universe. And that is that we want to build with our partners an ecosystem that really solves the challenges that broadcasters face. When you look at, how do we, migrate and build new systems in broadcast, it's been a lot of vendor A, vendor B, vendor C, and a lot of bespoke glue in between that's hard to maintain. And so as things become more software oriented, that's become effectively harder and harder. And so our vision is to build an ecosystem with strong APIs, good integration capability, where partners can contribute and essentially build out the solution. Grass Valley has one of the broadest portfolios in the industry, but we can't do this ourselves. We need cloud vendors, we need other broadcast vendors, we need new software vendors that maybe haven't done much in broadcast but have important technology. And so the idea is to build this ecosystem, a place where broadcasters can come and commercially they can transact business frictionless. I think that's kind of one of the key points is we want to create a frictionless experience. Despite the fact that I'm in the cloud, as a broadcaster, I don't want to have to glue everything together and maintain and support that in a very inefficient way. The interfaces need to be strong. I need to be able to go in, and when I need to use something, I can use it. I don't have to go out and get a quote. I've already understand how much it costs. I'm in a commercial framework. But then when I use it, it technically integrates at a deep level, and it really truly functions as an ecosystem. And so that's our vision, and we're making strong steps towards that. I think the Agile Media Processing Platform, or AMP, is the foundation. We're building out an app store. We're already working with a number of third parties, and over the course of this year, I think there'll be some exciting announcements about who's a part of the GV Media universe, and it will be expanding over time so that we can fulfill that vision.
Brilliant. So with that in mind and what you're building for the future, what does the future hold for, especially post-pandemic, for this sort of cloud working versus on-prem and the kind of hybrid workflows that we're seeing being talked about a lot for the future as well? What's your kind of vision of the future for media workflows?
Well, I think that vision includes the ability for a broadcaster to apply cloud as equally, or that there's no real hindrance to going to cloud, so that they can look at their spend, fixed facility versus cloud, and make calls and flexibly move things to where they need it. If you think of in a vision mixer, that there's the T-bar that does the transitions, dissolving between two sources or something. We want to give the broadcaster a T-bar where they can put that exactly where they want it. And over time, I think, if you just look at the world and how cloud is affecting the efficiencies within the world, cloud's got a very bright future. How that works for each customer and where they're at, that's going to be different. But we want to enable that so that they can go at their pace. And another important part of GV Media Universe, that vision that I described that I didn't mention, is the idea of connected devices. And this comes in that there are investments in plant and equipment today. There's user interfaces that people know. And so we're not trying to throw that out with this, but we're actually making strong connections to that, so that when you're in this hybrid scenario, you can actually use the interface and equipment that you have, and it works well with the cloud. Again, to make that T-bar, if you will, be able to set it wherever you want as your business goes. And we've learned that if you look at HD to UHD or SD to HD, all those transitions, there may be a lot of hype at an IBC or an NAB about this is the year, but these transitions always take time. People learn, they apply, and then you look back 10, 15, 20 years and the industry is completely different. And so that's why we're explaining our vision. That's why we're working very hard at it. And we intend to lead in this area to help customers transition. But we also recognize that there's going to be a pacing that is dependent upon each customer and their business model.
Presumably, the likes of NAB and IBC will be seeing a lot less hardware in the future.
I think that's going to be true. It's amazing over the years, even before AMP, that Grass Valley had a lot more software engineers than hardware engineers, even though it builds a lot of hardware.
Yeah.
But now that's kind of completely going not only just to COTS, but also to the cloud. And there are places, right, where dedicated hardware with FPGAs makes sense. That's still the highest density processing. It's just less flexible. And so we're providing tools that allows you to tailor. The K-frame production switcher is probably the preeminent example. I can take a panel that talks to that hardware, and I can do 192 inputs at 4K and do the Super Bowl or the World Cup, or I can spin up and talk to the cloud. But it's the same interface. Make that transition easy. Set the T-bar where you want it, and allow customers to have the flexibility that they need to tackle the business challenges before them. We're extremely excited about what the future holds and this technology and how it's solving customer problems. And we look forward to interacting with people from all over the industry, partners, even people that you maybe consider competitors, but obviously the end users and the customers. We're indebted to them and learning so much as we forge this path together.
It's very nice chatting to you today, Mike, and thanks for getting up so early for this as well.
You're welcome. 6 a.m. is my start day. I do a lot of people I work with in the UK. So.
Oh wow, yeah, okay, that's not so bad. It makes me feel slightly better. Take care, Mike. Lovely speaking to you.
All right, Jake.
Cheers.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a rating on your podcast provider. I'll see you next time for the next episode in the Broadcast Tech Talk series.